Welcome to Tech Hub. I'm Steven.
AP.
What's going on, man?
Nothing too much, man. How you been doing?
Good. It's been a little while.
It has been, a couple months now since we've done one of these bad boys.
For about a month after we got all those videos from Jared on Plan.
That's right.
Pretty epic.
Yep. Been a lot of traveling, a lot of customer meetings, and a lot of workflow development, which I know you have put some work into.
There's been an awful lot of workflow development.
Yeah.
So something we're going to call RStat, room status tracking.
I like it.
And it's a different way to look on how we track quote-unquote equipment.
Right.
From BIM 360 Field, and how we can leverage the statuses and the other pieces of software.
Right.
So when we look at equipment, typically think of something that's mechanical.
Yep.
Air handler, water pump,
right.
Boiler, whatever it could
be. A physical equipment object.
Physical equipment object that's
right.
fabricated, people install.
Yep.
But from what you showed me a little while ago, how we can actually push room objects in Revit, which is really just let's call it an invisible 3D object that just has a
right.
volume for between the walls, room, ceiling, and floor.
Right. It's a room volume.
We can push that into glue. Now that's actually an object we can track.
Right.
So when we look at any kind of contractor, electrical, general, painting, whoever's in the construction industry, they can go ahead and use this to track. So if you look at an office building, hotel, hospital, schoolhouse,
right.
apartment, whatever.
Ton of applications.
Now you can actually track the rooms on top of tracking the physical pieces of equipment.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
It just amplifies what they're able to do in field itself.
Yeah, and I think it's not only field, right? I mean, how many pieces of software did you touch on this workflow? You've kind of covered some bases here.
5.
Yeah.
6 actually, if you include Navisworks.
Right.
So 7 actually, because we're going to do a little dynamo.
Right.
When we look at what we have to do to get this information to be digestible
mm-hmm.
by field crews, by our field software, our cloud software, there's little work you have to do on the front end from a VDC BIM manager standpoint.
Right.
So what we're going to look at right here is just a room in Revit. Like we said, it's a volume space, and it's got some metadata in it.
Right.
But to add in some more metadata, we need to add in some custom parameters. So I'm going to use a barcode. What's a barcode? It's just text based upon light and dark space.
Right.
Add that in, attach it to a room, and now that status is there. We have no problem. It's there. I mean, well, not even status.
The
it's
metadata,
perimeter.
right?
Well, it's metadata. Exactly.
Yeah.
And BIM is one of those things that you get out what you put in.
Right. What I like what you did here, again, kind of the persona that you're dealing with, right? Let's say you're receiving a model, in this case, obviously architecture. You're not having to recreate the wheel with anything. You're just adding one more layer on top of it, which is that barcode information, right?
Exactly.
And I think your application of Dynamo here, which we typically think of like as the fancy modeler, if you will, you get that 3D visualization components, the really complex designs.
Right.
This really is handling one of the more mundane tasks that you'd want to fill out, which in this case, right, is just adding a barcode to every room in your model.
124 some odd rooms in this building.
Right.
I don't want to have to input every single 4-character barcode in here.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what we've always done in Revit. I mean, not Revit, Excel.
Right.
Put in a couple of numbers and drag and drop.
Right. Generate it all down, and then after the fact, you're just tying it back to that model database, right? I mean, you're just a couple of clicks and you're in.
And the thing about a script like this is it's not based upon specific objects. I can change this. I could do it against furniture. I could do it against doors and doorknobs and whatever category or family type I can attach this to.
And Steven, are you sharing the script in the credits of this video?
So there is a article on AKN, or Artist Knowledge Network, that those scripts will be posted in there, and I'll post a link to this after.
Awesome. I'm sure a lot of people would want access to it.
Exactly.
Cool.
So once you do the barcoding, the next thing we need to do is actually get this into our BIM 360 products.
Yep.
Get this into Glue and Field.
Right.
And this is a workflow and a process that we all know. We all know that Revit can push directly from the instance right into Glue.
Right.
But the caveat to this, the catalyst, is being able to add in that room.
Yep.
So get, I guess, deep in the picks and clicks. Once you decide where this model is supposed to go, make sure that you select add rooms.
Add those rooms.
If you don't know those rooms, and I've done this many times, when you go to create that equipment set in Glue, you're not going to have it.
Right. Basically, all the rooms just don't carry through. There's nothing to select at that point.
Exactly, because rooms are not an actual physical object inside of Revit. So when you look at a 3D model and you select the entire model, rooms cannot be filtered out.
Right.
What this does is this converts that fake 3D bounding area into a true into a true 3D area. So when we look at creating equipment sets and jumping into this model, you'll be able to see that that is actually selectable, and it includes all of the metadata that came from Revit.
Right.
So if you have room finishes, anything customizable, whatever's in the properties dialog box inside of Revit will be inside of Glue.
Definitely.
And subsequent, eventually into Field.
Yeah, and again, I like what you did here, because you're kind of taking the idea of equipment for a walk, if you will, right? I mean, you're obviously, a room isn't something we think of as a standard piece of equipment, but again, just another way that you can leverage BIM data, throughout the life cycle of a model or project. Really, I think it's a good way to kind of leverage that infrastructure that you already have built. It's just getting another use out of it.
Exactly.
So,
and you actually taught me this trick, and actually our good friend Neil did the same thing, where diving deeper, going into the actual category and creating the equipment sets. Now I don't have to select 124 rooms.
Right. Just
one fell swoop and I have it.
Yeah.
So it's when we look at everything that you have to do as a BIM manager or a virtual design coordinator, it can be pretty monotonous. So if you can find ways that amplify the workflow and that just soften the noise and work smarter, not harder. I mean, I'm sure you learned that when you were in university as well.
I've done it the wrong way plenty of times, and it's part of doing it. You learn to do it the more effective way, which again, grabbing all those rooms in that same instance, it's going to speed up your process. You're mapping once now to that field instance as opposed to
that is a
times.
Good segue into this next portion, so this has to be mapped. Now, Field is really intelligent, but it doesn't know what you want to track. So you have the option to track anything. If you want to track the material color, you can track that material color. But the whole point of it is you have to set up yourself for success. So by creating the room, the equipment types, by creating the different statuses you're going to use, and those statuses are completely customizable.
Right.
A general contractor is probably not going to use the same statuses that a electrical contractor would use.
Exactly.
But they will still use statuses.
Right. And I love that you can, to your point, customize it out even by that trade, right? So depending on what type, quote unquote, type of equipment you're dealing with, they're going to have customized statuses for whatever circumstance you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good way to build out the project.
Exactly. And so as we can see, we're pulling our room number and our barcode, and these are actually things that we're going to go track. I want to track the status and the descriptions. If I want to track number of issues, I have the ability to do that as well.
Right.
And what's another part that helps out a lot is, depending on how much equipment you have, this could take a long time.
Sure.
You get an email when it's all said and done.
Right.
And then you can move on.
But like it just showed, right? Well, as soon as you're done, those 124 rooms that you originally started with, it's all populated out for your field project. So now you're good to literally start tracking status of those spaces via your barcode. So
did we set this up prepared? Because that's a really good segue into this next video. Is what someone out on the job site is actually going to be utilizing.
Right.
We can see here we're in the iPad, and we have all of our different pieces of equipment. You can actually see the barcode numbers there. Here I'm actually going to scan a barcode, and it brings you right to the room that I'm going to be working in.
Right. So how do you envision that, right? You're walking the job site. What are you doing? You got the iPad in front of you?
I got the iPad. I'm walking around. I am literally just scanning a barcode on a door jamb.
Right.
And if there's any issues, someone put a hammer through a wall, or there's a ding in the I'm missing a receptacle.
Right.
The framing's not appropriate, or the framing's shoddy. Whatever I'm missing, I can go ahead and create issues, snap photos, get all this information back. The best part of this is I can get this information back to my PMs very quickly.
Yep.
So when we look at equipment status and number of issues, I can run reports all day and twice on Tuesday.
Right.
Have dashboards and all that other stuff. But here's where we start amping up the noise a little bit on this. Here's how we get a little more visibility.
Sure.
So I was talking to a contractor, and he said that his superintendent, Jim, has the entire status of the project in his head.
Right.
It's not the place where this this manager wanted all that information to reside.
What happens when something happens to Jim? You know?
You lose all those statuses.
Right.
But what we have the ability to do, and this is where the so what get answered. Because so far we've only shown what we've already known. Maybe a little barcoding, but
sure,
that could be a nice to have. This is where I think it's a need to have, where I can now take my floor plan and look upon that room and pull that information back into the model. So I can pull all those BIM 360 statuses based upon the rooms that I've created equipment from right back into this model, and apply color schemes. Revit's data-based.
Yep.
Everything's based off of some kind of parameter somewhere. You can dive down pretty deep and get what you need.
Absolutely. And I think this is a perfect way to highlight the connectivity, to do things like run analysis of where I'm at on any given floor plan, any given level on my project, right? I mean, we talk about Excel spreadsheets early on, and oftentimes this is the way it's tracked in industry today as far as the closeout status of a room. And that can just be, frankly, hard to track, hard to reflect. There's no graphic tie to that line item. So I think what you've done here, which is in the Revit model, basically applying a color overlay, a filter onto the floor plan, and then you're able to actually see that status depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
So,
and this can be based off anything. So if I wanted to track number of issues, I could actually color code based upon the number of issues.
Right.
And the smart thing about Revit, what it does is it knows automatically what is populated that one field. So if you look at status BIM 360, if I had installed as opposed to the number what I had in there already, it would pick that up as soon as the information comes back in.
Right.
What we've just seen is that information is pushed very quickly.
Yep.
It's all living in the cloud, so it's just like that upload download thing.
No, I think that's great, man. I mean, again, when you got the guy in the field, he's running that status report end of day, end of week, whatever the case may be. It's getting reflected real time. So that's again, leverage that information as much as possible.
Jim walks that job site. I pull that information back, and now we have a 2D plan.
Right.
The next thing that we can do is take a look at Navisworks. Navisworks being that 3D model viewer and manipulator, we can open up that model that we push from Revit into BIM 360 Glue. I can open that up directly in Navisworks.
Right.
I can go ahead and isolate out all the rooms because I'm only concerned with the room objects right now, and go ahead and apply a appearance profiler based upon the BIM 360 status that again comes through Glue. So Glue becomes that union station. All lines lead to the union station. Information is going to pass through there. That's the only way to get back and forth.
Right.
And now, when I look at my properties, I have that status. That'll change as soon as I change it in field. I can re-update, and that pulls through, and then run that appearance profiler. And what does this do?
Again, it's giving you that 3D visualization, right? I think the Revit does a great job of the preset floor plan views that you can kind of, again, get that overlay on a plan, but doesn't have that 3D component because the rooms just don't carry through in a 3D component in Revit. So I think that's a good application of Navisworks, and I really like the idea you said earlier, right? I can do this to room status. I can do this to number of issues, number of checklists that are open, really a whole number of different things I may or may not be concerned about. So it really lends that flexibility to get that insight on my project just through the color variations.
There's the flexibility. It allows you not to have to boil the ocean to be able to utilize this kind of workflow.
Right.
Now this is where everything comes to head, where awesome, we've been able to pull that information back into Revit for a while, being able to pull that information back into Navisworks. The one thing that we actually haven't explored and haven't gone into is utilizing docs.
Yes.
So we have sheets in Revit, and these sheets in Revit can be sent out to a PDF, can be sent out, print hard copies to send them out.
Right.
Well, what's the best way to get information very quickly out to the job site? So Jim's out. Jim needs this plan the next day. What does he need? Right. How do we get that to him?
Sure. I think you hit on it, right? There's a couple different ways you could go about it. The PDF set, publish being one of them. You could upload that into your field project, so it'd basically be available there. But I like what you've done here, which I think you're getting at in the video, is basically you just uploaded this RVT into your docs project, and it dissects everything for you.
Yeah.
And again, specific to your floor plan, you've done it just on that rim status. But again, man, how many issues are open? I could have a whole nother sheet built out for that, and then it's just a one-time upload. Every time I do that, it reversions and updates, my most current. So
yeah, and then now what you have is you have version control. Think about when you have that Excel sheet that has all the information in it.
Yeah.
And somebody overwrites it or deletes it,
sure,
or corrupts.
Right.
Now you have the ability to do that here.
Yep.
I can be out utilizing this on a mobile device.
Yeah, beautiful.
Have all that information at hand. I can do comparing between versions 3 and versions 2.
Right.
Just utilize the normal functionality of docs. Issues,
Yep.
markups, snap photos. Let's say this room hasn't been framed. Take a picture of it. There's no framing there. And
right.
then you can move on from there.
Right.
And the last part of this, because we don't want to forget about what we've already done in Navisworks, is to utilize that 3D model. And think about across the street we have a 30-story high-rise going up.
Right.
And imagine on the 5th floor you forgot an issue. Maybe it might be minuscule, but
yeah,
that little issue could cause the owner some problems and maybe cause change orders back, because now you got to cut open the drywall to put in the outlet that wasn't put there because
sure.
it was just omitted or forgotten for some reason.
Right.
Well, now we can go, and if you look at the status, we can take a look at the Navisworks model and save that out. Get that out of that BIM 360, save that out as an NWD, and then push that right into BIM 360 docs.
Right.
Upload it. Uploading is pretty easy in docs. It's a drag and drop, so it's not like uploading to, the way it used to have to upload to a drive or something like that.
Right.
And now the information's all there, so you have that 3D model. So you're going through a coordination meeting, just a weekly job meeting. You can actually see in 3D where this project is at.
Sure.
And then mobile device, kind of key to be able to have that in your pocket, walking around. What's the status of this? What are we looking at right now?
Right.
And you can pull that right up on your iPhone.
No, I think that's great, man. I think you nailed it, right? You're getting the stack component of this right in the model as well, right? You're getting that whole 3D visualization. You talk about, doing a multi-story building, specific, multi-story residential, right? You're
Yep.
going through the same process on very similar spaces all the way up your building. So, maybe an issue that occurs on the 5th floor, those crews are already moved on, kind of, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
This is a very easy way that you can say, hey, we got an existing line item we got to go ahead and close out, make sure we're covering all our bases before close out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I've captured this entire workflow in a Autodesk Knowledge Network collection.
Right.
The article will be the article's in there as well, so I'll post a link for it at the bottom of this video. And I'm just glad to get this information out there. I think this is going to help a lot of people.
Dude.
It's changing the way we think about how we track equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and using just equipment as a umbrella term for whatever we want to track on the job site. No,
definitely. And I think you highlighted some great aspects of the entire platform in this as well. Even your ability to push it into docs, that's not necessarily most people are aware of. So I know you put a lot of work into it. Looks great, man.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks a lot, guys.